Real estate is about freedom, choice freedom, time freedom, and money freedom, and the impact you can make with that freedom. But it doesn't come without cost. Your freedom takes work. That's why Neil Timmins brings together the tools you need to build your real estate legacy, from tips and tricks to interviews with industry titans. It's all here in one place. Real Grit. Let's get to it.
What if I told you can make 20 times the return of a single family fix and flip on your next big deal? Well, it's actually possible. It's possible inside the world of commercial real estate. Say, I'm inviting you to this free challenge. It starts August 15th. It's totally free. It's a 5-day challenge where I'm going to take you and deep dive into the world of commercial real estate, more specifically, capital multiplier properties, what that is, how we identify them. I'm going to show you how to identify them, how to evaluate them, and how to lock them up risk-free. I'm going to give you all the paperwork to do it. It's totally free. You can sign up to join us at www.20xprofitchallenge.com/real grit. That's www.20xprofitchallenge.com/real grit. And I'll see you in the challenge. Coming up, Ernie Vargas, the probate fox. We're going to be talking a lot about probates, what that is, and how investors can take advantage of that, what it means to serve those who are going through a probate, all the fiduciaries in that process. So coming right up right now, Ernie Vargas. I got Ernie Vargas here. Ernie, I'm excited to talk to you. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for taking the time to connect on here. Say, we all got started in real estate somewhere, somehow. How'd you get into this business?
Oh, well, okay. I'd say by, man, have you ever heard that expression, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear?
The teacher shall appear, yes.
And that was essentially for me. I was tired of being tired. And the last job that I was at was a car dealership. And so I had jumped from a price club, driving the forklift and stocking chicken for a living, looking for something better. I jumped into car sales, and I said, okay, this is not it, right? And I was looking, and out of nowhere, I get an advertorial for a real estate seminar, and that's essentially what brought me into the space.
Wow. When was that? What year?
Oh boy, that was like back in 1998.
Okay. Yeah. So what was the very first deal that you did? What was it?
The very first deal that I did was actually, I don't know, was it a curse or was it a blessing? It was a curse from the standpoint of like, wow, I thought that real estate was going to be super duper always easy.
Yeah.
But it was a blessing in that first deal generated me a profit of $158,000.
Whoa.
So, yeah. So I'll take the blessing side.
Yeah, you'll take the blessing side, but yeah, the curse came after that. When every other deal thereafter, how many? Yeah, there's only a handful that maybe. How many deals have surpassed that in your career?
As easy as that, none. Yeah, I mean, we have surpassed them, but with a lot more work and rehab and all.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. No, that's incredible. So tell me what does your world look like? Or maybe what do you primarily invest in? What does it look like?
Oh, primarily, I invest in single family residences, and through the niche that we all know as probate and the inherited real estate space.
Yeah. And what do you do with the properties?
So I do a couple of things with them. I will either hold them and add them into the rental portfolio. I will wholesale some properties, and I will retail flip others.
Yeah, kind of a multiple exit strategy, just depending on where it fits in the box, right?
Exactly.
In the various boxes. All right. Well, talk to me about probate and inherited real estate. For people who don't know what probate is, maybe put some definition around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So probate essentially, I think I'll even take it a little step further back with inherited real estate, and then how that kind of moves its way into the probate space. So especially today, I think that we've all heard more and more, we all kind of keep hearing this term probate, but now we are also hearing the term pre-probate and inherited real estate. And there are differences between all of those different lead sources. And essentially, what was really interesting. I had a conversation with a student today, and he gave me his definition of a pre-probate, which was something completely different than what I've ever thought of as a pre-probate. I said, you know what, you're right. Actually, you're actually right. I would define that as a pre-probate as well. His definition of a pre-probate was having an opportunity to purchase property from somebody who is transitioning from their residence into some type of a elder care facility, or maybe moving in with adult children and so forth. So a person is not dead. I said, yeah, I guess that is a way to look at a form of pre-probate, right? Yeah. Because it's still alive. But the more traditional means that I have always defined pre-probate is where somebody has basically passed away, and then that person that passed away, as it pertains to us being interested in real estate, this person had ownership in real estate. And they had this ownership in real estate in either the form of holding title as an individual. And so then that would lead the family down the path of having to file a probate sometime in the future, right? So I would call that a pre-probate. Another form of this pre-probate or inherited lead would be where somebody held their property like in a living trust. Yeah. And so the family gets to bypass probate altogether because the deceased did the responsible thing by preparing their estate so their family did not have to go through probate. So I would classify both of those under the world of inherited real estate, and they will go down one of those two paths: either sell via a trust sale or sell via during the probate proceeding. So now we enter into the probate space. So probate is officially when somebody has passed away. The family has come to a decision that they have to do something. So they go out and they typically hire an attorney. Sometimes they'll do it on their own, and they go to the court and they will officially begin this probate process. It's a legal process. And in doing so, by going to the court and beginning this legal process, they get a case number assigned. So now this case is what we all know as a public record. So we as the public have the legal right to have knowledge and information of what is occurring with this matter. Right. So that is what I would refer to as a probate.
Yeah, and in that scenario where they've gone to the court, they've hired an attorney, they filed for to open this estate, might not be the right word, but opened a probate. And then they're over a period of time, the state mandates that they have to, if there's real estate in there, they have so long to do something with that.
They do, yes. And where you and I, really come into this whole picture is understanding the challenges that the folks that are having to deal with are going through, and where we fit in, right? I think the best place that we can fit in is where there's a service that's needed. And by all means, you will find a lot of needs within this probate space, such as, these folks will call them personal representatives. We also call them executors and administrators. These are the people who essentially are in charge of the estate, as you mentioned, essentially the asset that is going through the probate system, the house. This would be the one party in charge. And so these folks are going through a lot, not just emotionally, right? If you can kind of put yourself in the shoes of somebody who has lost a loved one and has to deal with a bunch of a bunch of obligations, and there's a house sitting, well, it's very common that these houses could be sitting vacant. It's very common that there could be a mortgage or a reverse mortgage on this property. All of those things pose a lot of challenges and stress and anxiety. So that's one high level of stress that they are going through. But then the other is a monetary one, right? Financial expenses that are occurring. Having to pay the attorney.
The mortgage doesn't stop.
The mortgage does not stop. And what's so interesting is that these folks, for some reason or another, tend to procrastinate on the obligation of that mortgage. And as a result, these mortgages are in default, and then there's a foreclosure proceeding. Oh, my goodness.
Do you think that there's a part of that reason to procrastinate is that it's not their house? It's not something they live in. They didn't pay for it.
Yeah, I would certainly say that is one of the reasons. Another reason is that the average American household doesn't necessarily have a stash of cash just underneath the mattress for emergencies like this, and so people are not prepared.
Yeah, they're not prepared. But I think those two factors, them being ill prepared or just, life circumstances, let's call it, just that they just can't take on, along with the fact that they're somewhat detached financially and emotionally from the property, that it's not theirs. It's still mom, still dad, still aunt, uncles, or whoever. Those two things often lead to a better opportunity for an investor.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Very, very true. And, the truth of the matter is that they probably already have their own mortgage that they have to pay for and all their own obligations and responsibilities.
Right. Yeah. Now, working these types of leads is a little different. I'll put it in that category. You've got to be mindful because you hit it on the head. People have a range of emotions. Some it's none, and some it's significant, right? And oftentimes you're dealing with multiple people. Although there may be a personal representative, you may end up with 2 to 5, 6, 7, 8 heirs to a property and a whole host of opinions, right? And so working these types of this niche can be a little different, isn't it?
It is. It definitely requires a certain personality, right? Somebody who I would say is patient, who genuinely has a care to, really walk alongside of these folks and kind of step outside of our own needs and wants. As investors, I get it. We're interested in profits. That's important. That's why we're in business. But this particular industry of probate and the pre-probate space really is one where you have to be okay to not purchase a house and to walk alongside somebody and really find methods that you can help. What you will receive and benefit when you don't buy a house is build up a good name for yourself. And you'll see that name actually produces future revenue. And what I mean by that is I've had opportunities where I've developed great relationships with the attorneys that are, facilitating that particular case. And they take note. Hey, remember that guy, Ernie Vargas? He's the one that helped our clients with XYZ. Let's give him a call. So that's one example. And otherwise, people just get to know who you are. But the majority of times, these people will sell because they have to sell. Yep. Because in order for this probate to move along, there needs to be liquidity in the estate. And the highest asset that can bring that liquidity is the house. And the only way that house will bring that liquidity is to be sold.
My experience is getting the list of probate is not oftentimes not the easiest thing in the world. It's not like you can just go get a list of, absentee owners and whatever zip code and punch it in. And all of a sudden, 2 minutes later, you have a list. This takes it's a little different. And oftentimes there's other avenues that one must go down and end up with some people like yourself who specialize in this.
Yeah. It's I think things have gotten easier today, which is great. But there's still a lot of challenges to overcome. There are a lot of barriers to, providing these, obtaining these lists. For the most part, these lists must be obtained at the court. There are some counties in the country that actually provide you that information online, but not many. The majority of times, to get an entire fact sheet of all the items that you need, you'd have to go to the court. You can start off online, but eventually
you physically have to go to the courthouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Physically. And then understanding how to pull files is really, really important. So, and then having the patience and that personality. I'll tell you, back in the old days when I started, I actually used to pull my own files, and I was not cut out for this. I just, it's a certain type of personality and brain that I just did not have the patience for that.
Yeah, it's unique. But my experience has been, maybe you can echo this, the harder the list is to get, the better the list is.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, by far. Yes, absolutely. And, probate is a very high value list for a couple of reasons. One being exactly what you said. It's so difficult to obtain. There's so many more barriers to entry in obtaining that list that once you get your hands on it, you have to treat it like gold, right? And then the motivation level, like there's been a big life occurrence and change in the family's dynamic. And so therefore, there is a probable need to sell that house.
Tell me your team structure. What's that look like today?
Yeah, so my team is, I've got a couple people. I've got my dialers, which are all in house. I've hired VAs in the past. I've done that. I've hired a couple of people, but the best callers that I personally have had the best results with are those that I can train myself and are either in my office space or working from home, but we can still meet with each other, on a personal basis. So the best dialers that I have today are actually two people that are completely opposite of each other. One is a younger, college, post-college profile. Right. So young, hungry, and a sponge, and very humble. Right. They will do everything that you say, and they're not, full of themselves. And the second one is the elderly person, the person who's actually already retired. So post-retirement age. And I will tell you that my retirement folks have always been my best.
I absolutely believe that.
And you know what? There's a reason for that, right? If you kind of think about who they are, what their personality is like, and what era they grew up with, they're conversational, type people, right? Yeah. Which is not something that you find.
I would guess they're the most relatable in age and life circumstance relative to the person they're talking to on the phone.
Very much.
Is that you'd find that to be accurate? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. But you're right. Very much more conversational, right? You grew up in an era where there is only a telephone, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's not like you're faking the rapport building. That is naturally who they are.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Wow. Looking back over your career, and specifically in probate, what has been, or maybe not just probate, what's been the biggest challenge, the biggest circumstance, the biggest event you've had to go through while building your business?
Biggest challenge. My biggest challenge was in the last market, when the market basically came to a halt and that market correction. That was very interesting because I was invested in, so I live in LA, right? Pasadena, California. And I had a pretty active business in Los Angeles County as well as San Diego, but then out of state in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Phoenix, Arizona. And what was very interesting for me is that at the time, these markets were all doing different things. I would say that Arizona was the first one that I experienced the crash as it pertained to my particular business. And then it kind of followed. So that was big. And so, really exiting that market, I think I should have done that a lot faster. I held on to properties. I remember specifically thinking when I got certain offers, and I think this is really important for your listeners today, is that you must be aware of what the market is doing, and you must take decisive action as fast as possible, and don't hold on to any property for an emotional reason or for what you think you should make. So if you're going to take a loss, in other words, take a loss as quickly and as soon as possible. I held on to some of these properties way longer than I should have. And as a result, I took some pretty big losses in that market. But the good news to that is that once I did, I was free. And then, I kind of scratched my head and I said, what am I going to do now? The market in California, which was my primary market, was completely at a standstill. So what I did is I took my probate market and I plugged it and I played it into two states that were completely different. And that was Ohio and Indiana. And you can do this just about anywhere. So that was a really interesting time.
You said something I think that's interesting that most people do not contemplate at all. Is that there's an emotional cost when doing transactions, and more specifically, when you're taking a loss, an emotional component, a loss or carrying a property, there's an emotional cost associated with that in a very big way that can cost you way more money than the actual loss could ever cost you.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. And even when I think back to those days, and I sat with a lot of homeowners, because as a result, the market turned into a short sale and REO market, foreclosure market. And as I remember sitting with a lot of homeowners at the time, it's interesting. I think a homeowner has a different way of processing things than we, the real estate professional. because this is our business, right? So, but as a homeowner has invested their time, energy, and money, purchasing a house, and when they're losing that house, it's like they tend to hold on to it, but then that in itself created a lot more problems for them.
Yes,
and it was a sad thing to see, but I was able to kind of take my experience and use that as a counseling opportunity for these homeowners to tell them, hey guys, you need to move on as quickly as possible.
And then you went in, you pivoted, you plugged and play the probate process, the backbone, the staple of your business into multiple markets. And what you lived, which you already knew worked, is that probate works everywhere, and you have a process that works anywhere.
Exactly. Yes.
Tell me how, with that in mind, tell me how you coach, train, and educate other people to do what you do in whatever environment they're in, physical environment.
Yeah. So essentially, I really try to drive home the point that, in this business of probate and inherit real estate, we are not in the business of doing this, which is arm wrestling, right? I think oftentimes people are so concerned about either they are an investor or they're a licensed agent, for example, because a lot of the students that I have are a hybrid of both an agent and an investor. Yeah. You have to really put yourself in your prospect's shoes and understand what they are going through and really try to create a solution that's customized to their needs and wants, and not yours as the investor or as the agent, right? But rather building something that works for them. And so when I talk about the arm wrestling example, is that I think that too many people are trying to force the right price from that seller, right, when in fact, this business could be so much easier if you just deliver to them what they want. And so as a real estate investor, primarily my business is to buy houses, but there are different ways to leverage a listing. If you are licensed, naturally you can list these houses, but if you're not a problem at all. You should have and this is something that I teach my group, is that you should have some key agents on your team, because in this particular market space, there will be a nice handful of properties that will be listed. And why not participate in the revenue share with that? And so that's been a big part of our business as well.
There are houses, there are properties that are going to be sold. What I hear you saying is figure out how to monetize it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you absolutely should. Yeah. Well, when you look into your crystal ball, 2023, maybe not crystal ball, but where are you headed? Where do you want to accomplish? What's your world going to look like?
Well, yeah, in this new year, I definitely want to continue to grow my coaching business. I feel that there is a tremendous need for real estate professionals within the probate and inherited real estate space. It's sure, we all want to buy houses, but you need to know how to work with these folks, and these folks really, really need your help. So that's a big part of my mission with this new coming year, is to continue to develop more, opportunities for people to get trained in this space, and as well as kind of have that easy button for them to be able to obtain the probate leads and inherited leads, because I've got that for people. I've got a team of researchers across the country that are dedicated to pulling these files and providing them to the people that want them.
Yeah, your ability to pull lead lists and in multiple locations to fulfill to get those hard to find leads. Really, yeah, no, that's great. Tell me, let's do this. I want to move on to the final segment. What I call for impact. Your favorite quote: "If you work with your hands, you're a laborer. If you work with your hands and your mind, you're a craftsman. If you work with your hands, your mind, and your heart, you're an artist." St. Francis said it. What about that resonates most with you?
At a very early point in my real estate career, that was the one quote that really did it for me. Because in this business, I really do believe that we are artists, right? And like, we're creating masterpieces. I know that you must have created like these incredible deals that like you have to just kind of sit back and think, okay, wait a minute, how do I do this? Here are the problems. And sometimes it's just, you're just sitting there and you're painting this picture in your mind of solutions and things that you're going to do to make this happen. Yeah. And at the end of the day, when you do make it happen, you look back and you're like, wow, I can't believe it. That was amazing. So I consider ourselves in this industry as artists. I mean, we are Picassos of real estate. I really do see ourselves as that. And it's fun, right? That's the creativity part of us.
It's fun. is fun for sure. Yes. You're absolutely right about that. What do you think holds most investors back from hitting their personal next level?
I think that what holds most people back is really the self-doubt and the negative self-talk, right? We all have some kind of a history and background in our life. Some people maybe had it better than others, but there are some, and many people out there who have had some challenges in their life. And I think that oftentimes, mankind carries these things with them to their adult years. And so we stop ourselves. I really do see that a lot. We're all capable. Nobody's smarter than the next person. It's just who really applies themselves, commits to things, and follows through.
Yeah. Outside of real estate, what are you most passionate about?
Outside of real estate, I'm actually passionate about men that are in prison. So growing up, I talked about our past a little bit, right? I actually grew up with a bunch of friends who made wrong choices in life, wrong choices in life that led them to being buried early, like in high school.
Wow.
A lot of these guys either were incarcerated for life or they were killed. And killed because they were out there on the streets, participating in gangs. And, that's something that you'll often see in big cities, young men making wrong choices that eventually lead to death. So I'm a big fan of the movie A Bronx Tale. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
I sure have. Yeah.
One of my favorites. And, he talks about wasted talent, right? I completely resonate with that message because we all have talent. But unfortunately, a lot of young men out there waste that talent. And so when I've been part of a prison group for quite a while where I spent some time in Angola, for example, in Louisiana. Slept in an old death row and, just basically was out there with the inmates. And that was a very impactful time for me. We've taken the program that was created in Angola and we've adapted it to the Los Angeles and California prison system, and really minister to men who need to learn how to become better fathers, husbands. And one of the unfortunate things that happens is that statistically, men who are incarcerated have children who are also incarcerated.
Correct.
So, trying to break that chain of incarceration by correcting, that decision that these men make is really, really important, so that their children's lives can be changed. We've also spent some time in juvenile hall working with the youth, and at least in California, I can say that sad to say that a lot of the children that don't make it to foster homes end up in juvenile hall as housing. Not because they did a crime or anything like that, but, because there isn't space for them. And so it's a really, really sad and unfortunate thing. All that to say that where my passion really lies today is in something more than just money, right? And growth in our business, but to do something bigger and greater. And so I'm working on a nonprofit, which I haven't nailed down the quite title, but I just call it the Vargas Center for now, where we can go in and help a lot of these men, whether they are young men or older men, to teach them different skills and different opportunities, and to take my passions of entrepreneurship and share that with them.
I'm deeply impactful there. I mean, certainly you're going to make a legacy impact in the lives of other people through the work that you're doing there. And you hit it on the head. I mean, it's about men being leaders, right? Because the stats show exactly what you just said. Those who fail their children, and it's a vicious cycle. That's what it is.
Yeah, it is very much typically, I think a lot of the men who end up making a lot of the wrong choices are men whose fathers were not present or did not have a father figure, a positive father figure. And so I can relate to that. My own father was not with me. It was just my mother and myself that we were kind of, together.
How did you, given that circumstance growing up and given, the circle that, a whole bunch of people who went to an alternative direction, that, they're not sitting here talking to me today. How did you end up in the spot you're in? What about that got you, let's call it straight and narrow?
I think of two things. One is the observation of my mother's struggles, right? And she struggled a lot, and so she was a very hard worker, is a hard worker but she's retired now, but she's still alive. And just kind of thinking about the life that I wanted to have for us, in the future, right? So these were the thoughts that were ingrained. I think that oftentimes when you're in a place of pain in your life, you either go down a dark road or you go down a road that's completely opposite, right? And so for me, it was, let me do bigger and greater things. And the second thing was, so I had something that was very different than maybe my peers, and that was a youth pastor who basically took me aside, and I had an open heart, and I listened, and that was a very impactful turning point in my life that helped me to make better decisions that were different than the ones that my peers made.
You never know what your words will do, right?
Right.
Whereas when you're around children, oftentimes your words can have a greater impact than you could ever imagine. Yeah,
very true. And so I hope to to be able to impact other young men, even today, there is a young man in that was close to me who just passed away this past weekend by making the wrong choices. And I'm reminded that this is urgent. I have to, I can't be on the sidelines of, I know that that's one of my life's purposes. And so.
Yeah, it's and this conversation here and the crux of right where we're at right now is a good reminder that it's not about a business. Business allows us to have, and then ultimately gives us the freedom to do what it is that we're super passionate about. That it's more impactful. That the impact goes way past us.
Absolutely, yes. And again, we all have so much opportunity and potential, and so
Infinite.
many things that we can thrive and do. And, this business of real estate is one that, we can be so creative, as I said, and we can do so many things from this business. I've been able to derive different other little sub businesses, not necessarily in real estate, but sort of tied to real estate. Part of a reglazing business, part of a property management business. Talked about the leads. So there's so many things that we can do. And then if we think about, wow, if I can do this, who else, right? All of these other guys, we can teach this and share this type of thinking and how full of opportunities life really is. I think people could make better choices.
No, you're absolutely right. If people want to find you, they want to follow you, they want to learn more about the coaching stuff, where can they go? What should they do?
So Ernie Vargas, ERNIE VARGAS. You'll find, just go to any social media spot. Probate Fox. I'm known as the Probate Fox. PROBATEFOX. So you'll find me either by searching Ernie Vargas or the Probate Fox, Instagram, Facebook, and then the website is probatefox.com. So
we'll make sure we get all the links below for everybody here in the show notes. Ernie, I really appreciate you taking the time to connect. You've got an amazing story, an amazing background about what you grew up out of and the impact you're making in really in your business today. And based on what you just shared with me, how you grew up, it does not shock me that you ended up in the probate business serving other people, because that's really what those leads and that business looks like, is the ability to serve first.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking the time to connect. It's a really good conversation, Ernie.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me. I really had a great time with you here today.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. For everybody here at Real Grit, I'm Neil Timmins, reminding you that real estate requires real grit. See you next time. What if I told you can make 20 times the return of a single family fix and flip on your next big deal? Well, it's actually possible. It's possible inside the world of commercial real estate. Say, I'm inviting you to this free challenge. It starts August 15th. It's totally free. It's a 5-day challenge where I'm going to take you and deep dive into the world of commercial real estate, more specifically, capital multiplier properties, what that is, how we identify them. I'm going to show you how to identify them, how to evaluate them, and how to lock them up risk-free. I'm going to give you all the paperwork to do it. It's totally free. You can sign up to join us at www.20xprofitchallenge.com/real grit. That's www.20xprofitchallenge.com/real grit. And I'll see you in the challenge. If you like our content and want more, you can access it at realgritpodcast.com. You hear it guest after guest. Instinctively, you already know it. But let me call it out. The most expensive action is inaction. The real estate market is full of opportunities. You just need to uncover them. You can build a business that lasts for years, makes monumental impact in the lives of those that you love. It's not just about business, but about the freedom you get because of it. Have you ever heard the saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I believe that partnering is essential. In fact, I partner with hardworking investors all the time. The point is that you can get a lot further with the right partner. Let me say it again, the right partner. If you've ever thought about partnering with anyone, or if you have a partner now, I encourage you to download my free Partner and Profit Guide, which includes the top 5 must-answer questions to evaluate a profitable partnership. You can find it at www.legacyimpactpartners.com. I'll see you in the next episode.